Welcome back to Cityline. With me, I have a lovely individual who is here to talk about the Washington Trafficking Program. So please join me in welcoming Kira Dobeck. She is the Executive Director of Washington Trafficking Prevention. Welcome to Cityline, my dear.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Great to see you again.
Great to see you again. You look incredible, like you have just a really good rest nap going. You just look so beaming. So, Kira, for people who may hear Washington Trafficking Prevention and not really know what it means or how important it is, what would you say to them? What does Washington Trafficking Prevention do?
So our organization offers 10 programs, but these programs are really aimed to prepare anybody in the community, whether you're a young person, a parent or a caregiver, a teacher, medical professional in law enforcement, or a counselor or social worker, to really be able to identify, respond, report, and prevent human trafficking. We know that young people are absolutely the ones who are most targeted for this. And so rather than, we really work to empower young people with all the skills and tools that they need to be active bystanders amongst their peers, because they're going to see things that adults don't. And, we've seen this through our program many times in Empowered You, where young people will hear something and they're like, oh, this is something that's been happening to my friend. And they'll reach out to us, and then we're able to close the loop, get the young person services, but it's just incredible. And then we work to engage community members in really meaningful ways through our Coalitions Against Trafficking in Pierce, Thurston, and Skagit counties. It's just a lot of fun to be able to do what we do.
Yeah, boy, and it's you've got strong shoulders, because that's a very heavy and intense and wide mission that you have every single day to wake up to. Kira, what is human trafficking? And I ask that question because I know it looks different according to who is being victimized. So you just mentioned the youth here in our beautiful city. What does it look like for a young person to be a victim of human trafficking as opposed to an older person?
Absolutely. So here in Washington, we have a really great law called CSAM, which is commercial sexual abuse of a minor. And that local RCW kind of expanded what it looks like for young people beyond the federal definition of what human trafficking is. And so for any young person under the age of 18 who, is either solicited for or trades anything of value for any sex act. So it could be webcam photos, it could be stripping and dancing, any sort of sex act, pictures, all of those things count as commercial sexual abuse of a minor. So there doesn't even have to be something that actually takes place for this to be human trafficking. Even just asking about it is something that is commercial sexual abuse of a minor here in Washington. So it's so, and then for adults, a lot of folks have confusion about this, but the easiest way to explain it is if they make you, trick you, or convince you into engaging into any commercial sex, pornography, stripping, dancing, prostitution, all of those things count. And so it's really based in coercion and convincing people to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And it's because of unmet basic needs that most people first engage in this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great answer. Thank you for that clarity. So, Kira, how big is human trafficking, let's say, within your purview, and how has it changed during COVID?
So the thing is that it's really understudied. But what we know is that in Washington state, it's estimated between 2,000 to 3,000 young people under the age of 18 are exploited for the first time every year. And that's on an average year. during pandemic years, we're really estimating that that looked more like 5,000 per year that were being exploited for the first time. So we're talking about young people who don't have a place to stay, that are trading sex in order to have safety and shelter or the illusion of safety. We're talking about young people who maybe have substance use disorder that are trading sex for drugs, or food or other things that they need to survive. We also know that a lot of people were experiencing poverty last year. And so when we're looking at those conditions where, or risk factors for folks that are vulnerable for this type of violence, we're talking about young people who are not going to school regularly, people who are socially isolated, experiencing poverty. We know that domestic violence is a huge primary risk factor. Any substance use disorder in the home, unstable housing, and increased online activity. Those are all things that increased during the pandemic last year and the year before. And so those are all the things that we're looking to address holistically within the community and through our partnerships.
Absolutely. Boy, when you think about just the level of fear and scarcity that we have been in, now we're going on our third year of this with Omicron. It is the perfect fire for human trafficking, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We saw a huge surge in things like OnlyFans last year. And one of the hard things is that people are not able to access enough money in order to survive with a normal job with minimum wage where it's at. And so a lot of people are in this position where they're like, I have no other choice other to engage in the commercial sex industry in order to have enough money to just meet basic needs.
Right. So, Kira, educate us on what is your approach to prevent human trafficking?
So we want to surround every young person in the community with safe adults. And what that looks like is, when we go into schools, we want to prepare every school personnel with the tools to be able to really surround that young person with the support that they need. But that also means that we have to address some of our societal issues like racism, heterosexism, transphobia, things that make young people not feel safe at school and result in them not going to school anymore. And so those are things that we talk about with educators and administrators. But also a lot of parents are very reluctant or unaware of all the dangers that young people face online. Online child luring raised 99% in 2020. We don't have a stat on 2021 quite yet, but really sitting down and having some frank conversations with parents and caregivers about how to set those boundaries. So we want to be able to equip people with the knowledge that they need for what they experience in their life and in their world, and then give them all of the tools that they need to support young people. For young people, we're talking about, changing the next generation and their views around exploitation. And is it okay to not pay somebody adequately? Is it okay to purchase another human being for sex or not? And so we have to change that culture because this is a demand-driven issue. So if people stopped exploiting people for labor, and if people stopped purchasing sex or engaging in the commercial sex industry, trafficking would disappear. It wouldn't need to exist anymore.
God, I would love to be in that world where I could speak to the powers that be and say, look, basic needs are not being met. So you have a chance to step up and be a part of the solution and to get those, hierarchy of needs met. So then we can take people out of danger. Because, obviously Tacoma has issues with unhoused. We have some issues with violence right now. The pandemic has brought out the best and the worst in all of us. And we're still trying to recover from that. So when we think about year-round, because last month was Human Trafficking Awareness and Prevention Month, but what are some of the year-round actions that people can take? Like, for instance, in my neighborhood, I have tweeners all around me that go to middle school. I have high schoolers, and every parent needs an extra set of eyes. So what is it we can look for?
So one of the big things that people can do is actually host WTP at a lunch and learn at your work, because then we can come in and share all the things that everyday people need to be looking for and know how to report those instances of suspected human trafficking, so that we can start to, wrap around people and be able to offer them services. And I think that that's one of the most important things that anybody can do. But also signing up for our newsletter is something that folks can do. But, if you see something that you're like trusting your gut and something doesn't feel right, always calling it in. Don't approach somebody, because you could actually put them in more danger by approaching them, because you never know who's watching them out in the community.
Absolutely. It's that thing that is written across our heart. So if you see something, say something.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. How can people access your programs? I know you probably have a website, but do you also have virtual programs that we can sign up for in discussions?
Absolutely. So on our website, we have an upcoming trainings link that people can click on. Right now, we have Empowered You for young people ages 12 to 17. It's 5 sessions long. And for anybody that's in Tacoma that fits that, if you sign up and complete those 5 sessions, we have a funder who's allowing us to provide $25 gift card stipends to anybody who completes.
Oh, I'll take that. I mean, that is absolutely a win-win situation. Kira, before I say goodbye to you, because I know that you are a busy woman and everybody wants a piece of you, can you give our audience one thing to look for when it comes to our youth and potential signs of human trafficking?
So for young people, what I want you to be looking for is young people who are completely disconnected and have unmet basic needs.
Okay.
Those are the 2 things that I want you to look for. Those are the people who are most likely to be targeted, and then find some sort of way to connect with them in a meaningful way. Maybe it's like, taking them for a cup of coffee, or, giving them a Starbucks card, or having a conversation, or sharing, asking how their day's going. Connection is one of the most important things to preventing this.
Absolutely. And boy, with your help and education and finesse, those are tools that everybody needs in order to make that village that says, as I used to tell my daughter, your teenage years could be some of the roughest years of your life. So my job was to stay very, very close to her so I could see what was going on. And they're gone for 8 hours a day. And then they come home, or they're in front of a computer for 8 hours. And then sometimes trying to get information out is like pulling teeth. So I certainly would encourage all parents and all educators and all neighborhoods to go to your website and to engage in some classes. Because I have a neighborhood full of little kids that used to be 5 who are now 15, and I love them dearly. So I hope that everybody gets a chance to really sharpen their awareness about human trafficking for all ages.
Yes, thank you so much.
Well, Kira, thank you so very much for being here today and for all that you and your team do. And I want to have you back sooner than later, because we've got spring break coming up, we've got summer coming up, and hopefully we are starting to come out of this pandemic, which means we're going to see more people outside. So we need to have all of our senses aware and keyed to this. Kira, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. We have much more to come on Cityline. Don't go away. We'll be right back.